Good afternoon today, and it's Wednesday. We're going to be reading Glimpses of a Great Soul, Swami Saradananda. Today we have notes from the lectures. These have been his teachings rather than stories of his life. This is Sri Ramakrishna and the Yoga of Devotion, adapted from the Great Master, Sri Ramakrishna, the Great Master. It's talking about incarnations of God. Incarnations of God discover new religious doctrines, new paths to God. They impart the power of spirituality to others by a mere touch. Their lives demonstrate that they were born to show us the path to God realization. They do not live for their own enjoyment or for the attainment of their own liberation, but their love of others and their compassion for human misery have urged them to demonstrate with their lives the means of removing sorrow and misery. The author of the Panchadasi said, "A man does not like to change after attaining samadhi the circumstances or the environments in which he was before attaining it. And this is because all circumstances, except the reality of Brahman, seem hollow to him." Now, we can think of this because the incarnations of God, like Jesus, like Buddha, like what some people call the mythological ones, Krishna, each one delivers a specific teaching. They all teach the same truth, but they have a little difference in their paths to the same truth. And the religious books of all peoples report that even a little devotion, correctly practiced, molds the devotee to the object of his worship. If our love and devotion to Sri Ramakrishna do not make our daily lives at least a little similar to his, then our love and devotion are not worthy of that name. Can every one of us become a Paramahamsa Ramakrishna? Each of us can surely become like one who has been cast in the same mold. All of the world's greatest teachers' souls are special molds. The successive generations of their disciples have been preserving those molds, and the process continues to our own day. For most of us, a whole life's effort is not enough to become an exact replica of any one of those prototypes. To fashion one's inner life to such a model requires that all one's physical and mental actions become harmonious with the spirit of the Great Soul. The mind and body of the disciple then become fully developed instruments for containing, preserving, and imparting to others that great power that astonished the world during the lifetime of the founder of the faith. In their power and spirituality, they are similar, but each of the great souls has manifested that power and spirituality in an unprecedented life, and so left new and different molds behind him. Here are a few details in the manner in which Sri Ramakrishna lived from day to day at Dakshineshwar. We all hope we can do something of this. It was his habit to keep his body, his clothes, and bedding, and other things very clean. He loved to keep things in their proper place. He taught others to do so, and he felt annoyed if anyone were untidy. He attended to details. Before departing on a visit, he would inquire whether his towel, a small bag, and other necessities were being taken, and then, when it was time to return, he would remind the disciple who attended him not to forget these articles. He used to be anxious to do a thing at the exact time when he said he would, and lest he be guilty of falsehood, he would not take something from the hand of anyone else but the person from whom he promised to take it. For the sake of his word, he would put up with any amount of inconvenience for any length of time. In our order, it is when we join the monasteries or the convent, one of the first lessons we learn is put things back where you got them. Always put things back in their proper place. It's a good habit to learn, but it's also very beneficial to community living, because if someone else wants it, they go to the place and then they're hunting all over and wasting time. When Ramakrishna saw torn clothing or a torn umbrella or some such thing being used, he would say, "Fortune frowns at the man who uses such things, and he loses grace." And then he would instruct the person to buy a new one, or sometimes he would buy one for him. Words of pride or egoism never came out of his holy mouth. When he had to speak of his own ideas, he pointed at his body and saying, "The idea of this place," or "the opinion of this place." Sri Ramakrishna had the quality of making his devotees feel that he loved each one of them more than he did all the others. Probably that impression came from the deep sympathy he had for each of us. For although sympathy and love are two different things, their external characteristics are not very different. From his childhood onward, he made the fullest use of his eyes and other senses. This self-education stood him in good stead in molding human character. He used to study the conformation of his disciples' features and limbs, as well as their actions, and from this he learned the workings of their minds and the degree of their spiritual development. In our intimate dealings with him, we never found him wrong in such matters. It was an innate characteristic of Sri Ramakrishna to become completely absorbed in whatever he was thinking. This ability to concentrate enabled him to know what was beneath the surface of his disciples and to prescribe what was needed for their improvement. He took special care that his disciples learn to use their sense and to think before performing any action. We heard him say again and again that it was reason alone that could reveal the merits and demerits of our circumstances and might make the mind go forward towards true renunciation. He never enjoyed a person of narrow intellect or one devoid of it. Everyone has heard him say, "You should be a devotee, it is true, but why should you therefore be a fool?" Or, "Don't be one-sided. That is not the attitude of this place. The attitude of this place is, I'll eat fish in different preparations, as soup or with a pungent or sour sauce." He called a one-sided intellect dull and drab. How monotonous were his words of scolding to a disciple who could not feel delight in any but one particular aspect of the divine Lord. He used these words of scolding in such a way that the disciple had to hide his face for shame. It was undoubtedly under the impulse of this liberal, universal frame of mind that he began to practice the suddenness of all faiths, and so was able to discover the grand truth, as many faiths, so many paths to God. Any questions about that section? We should all do this. Don't be untidy. Keep everything neat and tidy in its place. Okay, the next notes from a lecture, Bigotry, Religion, and Philosophy in the Light of the Teachings of Sri Ramakrishna and Swami Vivekananda. Today I shall present you with only a few observations, and there are a number of speakers abler than I to do full justice to the subject. I say they are abler speakers advisedly, for we have a Sanskrit proverb. One should desire victory everywhere, but defeat from the sun. The speakers of this afternoon are like sons to me, and hence I do not hesitate to call them my betters. Calcutta today is in the midst of bloody communal riots. This would be before 1921, before 1925. It would have been after Holy Mother's death and before.
Holy Mother's death, he would have come back from the West.
Yeah.
And he died in the 20s.
Okay, so I believe Holy Mother died in 21, didn't she?
20 maybe.
20 or 21. And so this would be in that short period before, just after World War I guess. Yeah. Calcutta today is in the midst of bloody communal riots, and the news of them is filtering to us. The cause of this strife lies mainly in the country's failure to accept the Catholic and tolerant ideas of Sri Ramakrishna. If we could have won the country over to his message of harmony, love, and toleration, we would certainly have been spared the pain of witnessing this hatred and jealousy, this fighting and bloodshed. Sri Ramakrishna dared to test the validity of the Islamic faith. After taking proper initiation from a Muslim holy man, he discovered that the mode of worship described in the Quran, if practiced sincerely and honestly, leads the disciple to the realization of truth. If our countrymen could understand and accept his realization of the truth through the disciplines of the Quran, they could not have committed those sacrilegious acts of breaking into and defiling mosques and images. You cannot expect these two communities to unite unless there is that purification of heart, unless there is that sincere respect for each other's ideals and beliefs that Ramakrishna's life demonstrated. You cannot achieve unity by social intercourse, by eating together, or by commingling, or other. Hindus must believe that Islam, as a religion, is as true as Hinduism, and the Muslims must believe that the Hindu religion, with its variety of creeds and customs, is as true as Islam. Sri Ramakrishna saw and said long ago that there was a mountain-high barrier separating these two communities. They come from two distinct streams of civilization and differ widely in their views and outlook. Still, there is hope for their union if only we can eliminate the narrowness and bigotry that passes for religion today. In studying the fundamental ideas about religion that Sri Ramakrishna has left for us, the first we come across is that God can be seen and talked to, just as we talk to each other. We have to believe this. Secondly, if we are to reach God, we must establish a relationship with him, be it that a father or a friend or some other relationship that can root deeply in our nature. And we must work on that relationship with single-minded devotion. There are, of course, other more abstract concepts of Godhead, but most people need form and symbol and cannot follow the impersonal path to its logical conclusion. Sincerity and wholehearted devotion to God are the determining factors of sadhana in life. The greatest obstacle in our way to God is the ego. As long as there's the I, God is far away from us. The I must be completely merged in the thou. We must resign ourselves completely at the feet of the Lord. Then only can we realize the truth. Believe in any form or in any personality and establish any type of kinship with him, but surrender completely to him and make him the only thought of your life and actions. Become wholly absorbed in him and then only will you be blessed. Okay, any questions on that one? Comments? Okay. The next one is an address of welcome. Ooh, okay. Delivered by Swami Saradananda on April 1st, 1926, at the convention of the Ramakrishna Mountain Mission at Bellarmont. It was published on page 17 of the book commemorating this convention. I don't know where the book is, but it's on page 17. Okay. Address of welcome. It seems to be the invariable rule that every new movement should pass through the stages of opposition and indifference before its principles are accepted by society and humanity at large. And as human nature is the same everywhere, we find this rule displayed alike in the East and the West. The more radical the ideas of your reform movement, the more vehement will be the opposition. People will say that the principles of the movement will ruin the very foundation of everything that is good and useful. But if the movement has real life in it and is based on the essential truths governing human nature, it will survive, grow, and win over the hearts of people despite the opposition. Outside opposition actually helps concentrate the energies of the movement and stimulates the expression of the fundamental truths on which it stands. So we cannot say that the process of opposition is all bad, after all. After a period, the opposition wears away and gives place to indifference. When those who first opposed the movement begin to say that after all there's nothing so very new in it. For have we not, in such and such passages of our old histories and scriptures, a mention of the principles which it preaches? This is sufficient proof that our forefathers knew these principles and carried them into practice long ago, so we need not think about it much anymore. During this second stage, the movement spreads unhindered far and wide and finds secure footing in due time through the recognition of its existence and utility by society. At the end of the second stage, we find the movement accepted by public opinion. The ranks of its members swell rapidly, and with this social acceptance and recognition. However, the third stage, complete public acceptance, is not to be regarded as the millennium. Security of position brings a relaxation of spirits and energy, and the sudden growth of extensity quickly lessens the intensity and unity of purpose that were found among the early promoters of the movement. In place of outside opposition, we find the mushrooming of internal opposition due to the varied opinions of its members, and later, in place of the former spirit of sacrifice for truth, a struggle to maintain the secure social position by compromising truth with half-truths and clinging more to the appearance than to the spirit of things. If the leaders of the movement are not watchful or neglect to find remedies to check these evils, you can well imagine the result. First and foremost, the unifying bond of love within the movement slackens from the pressure of selfish motives, and the members, losing sight of the welfare and improvement of the movement as a whole, detach themselves into groups with a view to improving and making permanent these separate groups that are unrelated to the whole. This process of disintegration goes on dividing the work to pieces. In the course of time, disobedience to superiors, vanity, indolence, and a whole host of other faults crop up within the work to ruin it forever. The Ramakrishna movement passed through the stages of opposition and indifference a few years before the time when its great leader, the Swami Vivekananda, left us after giving the movement a working shape and organization under the name of the Ramakrishna Mission. Since then, the mission has been working steadily for the last quarter of a century and has brought itself to the point where it has found recognition and acceptance in the hearts of the people of India and of several countries abroad. From a simple minor organization working mostly in Bengal, it has in this short period quickly spread to all the presidencies and provinces of India, and even further to Burma, Ceylon, and the Federated Malay States, and the West, America and England, and some parts of Europe as well. And remember, this is 1926. You, friends, and your brother co-workers had the good fortune to be willing instruments, starting centers of philanthropic works at Benares, Kankal, and Vrindavan. You depended solely on the Lord and have proved to the public that your prophetic leader, Swami Vivekananda, said in some of his speeches that not money, but men fired with zeal for a noble cause, men who have character and fixity of purpose are wanted to make such works permanent and successful. You started teaching in Murshidabad, Madras, Bangalore, and many other places in southern India, and more recently at Nagpur, Bombay, Kuala Lumpur, Rangoon, which have drawn the attention and the respectful cooperation of the communities. Your frequent relief projects to help the poor and the sufferers of famine, flood, fire, and plague in areas all over India has helped to create the present confidence in the Ramakrishna mission in the hearts of the people. You have persevered with wonderful patience for 20 years and more, in some cases for a whole lifetime, because relieving hands could not be found. The Master and his chosen leader, Swami Vivekananda, have done wonderful work to help India, poor India, and other more fortunate countries through you. But still greater works remain to be accomplished, and the Master and Swamiji will do it all in time through you. If you hold fast to your purity and singleness of purpose, their sacrifice and self-surrender to all that is good, true, and noble, and continue in that meek and humble spirit with which you have followed them. If we work in any other spirit and think too much of ourselves because we have been chosen and allowed to do their work thus far, we shall find to our regret that we have been rejected and that others have been chosen to take our place. Remember, when in their vanity, the Israelites thought themselves so privileged in being God's children that they heeded not the Master. They were warned by John the Baptist that God is able of these stones to raise up children. Remember also the history of some of our powerful sects in India. Therefore, wonderful as it is to think of the growth that our mission has attained in the past quarter of a century, we should seriously consider whether we have gained this growth at the cost of that intense spirit of sacrifice and love for God that inspired us at the beginning. Whether the work that we did in the beginning for the love and glory of God has turned into slavery and bondage through undue attachment on our part to name, fame, power, and position. He's talking directly to the monks of the order, but this actually applies to all of us who are working in the world. If we do our work as in the spirit of love of God and not for our own gain, we will all have the same positive result. The present convention gives us the opportunity to examine our motives. It affords you the rare privilege of meeting many of your senior co-workers and elders in order to profit from their experiences, to initiate and settle future plans with them, and to discuss the welfare of the mission as a whole, including the need to ward off the evils that threaten to overtake all institutions at this critical stage. Join these discussions with sincerity and openness, and with a view of making a thorough and sifting inquiry to find out if we have swerved away from God in our struggles to keep up with the demands of expansion. Hold fast to God, for God contains the stored up energy, the kundalini, behind every movement. Judge yourself and others by God's effulgent light. This spirit of rededication will make the convention a success. Remember, this is not a new and untried path we are inviting you to travel. The Buddhists walked this way, pushed by the enormous spread of their congregation, and successfully warded off the ruin of their noble work for a long time. The followers of Jesus the Christ and the Prophet Muhammad applied the same technique from time to time in their past history. The approach to the problem is not new. The success of its application depends entirely on the sincerity and unity of purpose of those who use it. So in the words of our leader, Swami Vivekananda, I call on every one of you to arise, awake, and stop not till the goal is reached, until by the grace of the Master, you have accomplished the noble task that you have imposed upon yourselves. Friends, brethren, children, co-laborers in the vineyard of Sri Ramakrishna, I welcome you with all my heart in the name of our Master, our illustrious leader, the Swami Vivekananda, and our late revered president, the best beloved by the Master, the Swami Brahmananda. And that's the end of his welcome to the convention. Any questions about it or comments before we finish for today? Everyone's quiet.
It's really beautiful.
It really is. I mean, it kind of,
So applicable.
it's applicable to every single person in their life. You don't have to be a member of the organization. If you apply it to your own, each one of us must apply it ourselves to our own life and look at our motivations at all times. I mean, otherwise, yes, whenever anyone finds the path that answers all their questions or that feels like they have gotten home, we all have that enthusiasm and dedication, and it's really strong. And yes, our own development follows these steps precisely. We have that intense devotion, and people oppose what you're doing. They say, you shouldn't do that. Aren't you putting too much? We had one of our nuns, her great aunt came to see her, and she said, well, you know, Robin, a little religion is good, but you don't want to make it your life. She had already joined the convent. And yeah.
Because once you attain something after the struggle, it sort of dissipates and it's not worth as much.
Yes, I mean, the way he described it, you get comfortable and you get relaxed and you go into a kind of an indolent stage where you are just, well, sitting back on any kinds of things that you have done before. And we have to watch that in all of our lives. Yeah. Okay. Saturday, Swami Saradananda will give his class on the Bhagavad Gita here at 5. Did I say Saradananda? Oh, good, okay. So, Saradananda. who knows? Swami Saradananda will give his class at 5 o'clock here in the temple and on Zoom. His lecture on Sunday will be on the sacrifices of the incarnations. And I think, that's going to be extremely interesting because we don't often think of how much they sacrifice of themselves for the good of humanity. So the sacrifices of the incarnations here at 11 o'clock in the temple. Then we'll continue the next Wednesday with this book, Glimpses of a Great Soul, The Life of Swami Saradananda. Okay, so I hope we all see you. Well, I won't see you till next Wednesday, but someone will see you. Those of you on Zoom, someone will see you. So have a good weekend. Take care and stay healthy. We'll end with a semi-chant. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu. Take care.